Hi family, I'm an addict named Katie. Hi guys, so grateful to be here. I first just really quickly want to say thank you to the body for putting on this wonderful event for all of us for the past 3 days. It's been fantastic. And just like any other NA meeting, I always like to start off by saying welcome to anyone who's new, coming back, just trying to figure out what NA is. Like, you're welcome here. And one of the suggestions in Narcotics Anonymous is to get a sponsor. And sponsorship is an amazing thing. And I think I have one of the greatest sponsors out there. She is fantastic. She's probably the most loving person that I've ever met. She is just full of love and inspiration and wants all of the people in my sponsorship family to feel supported and connected on this journey. And I feel so fortunate to have her on my journey with me. And it's a gift to be able to connect with other addicts in that way. And I'm really grateful to have her in my life. And I'm very excited to hear her share for us tonight. And with that, here's Amy. Woo!
Yay! Thanks, Katie. I'm an addict. My name is Amy. Hello, my lovely friends. It's so nice to see so many of you on these little Hollywood squares. I miss our hugs in person. I miss our workshops in person. I miss all the things. I miss the food. Definitely miss the food in person. Yeah, but I also really enjoy our virtual world. I'm really proud of the NA communities globally that have adapted and evolved, somewhat effortlessly to online. And I know that it's a struggle for some people. Some people don't like online meetings. Some service bodies are struggling to do anything virtually, and others are flourishing and having more service than they've ever had before. It's very interesting and wonderful and awesome to see. And it's also just like, I have no idea where to put the dots to connect, why some places work and why some don't. But yeah, thank you to all those who have been of service this entire event, and all those who are just of service in general, at your home group, on PR, or PI if it's still PI where you live, any H&I service area, regional, world level service, sponsoring other addicts, just picking up the phone and calling newcomers, and being available to them, being available to the old timers that have, drifted away or struggling with technology. It's funny, in the area that I live in. I live in the Bay Area in California. I live in Martinez, which is Contra Costa area. I live in the Northern California region, part of the Western State Zonal Forum. And it's funny. So I'm in the heart of Silicon Valley, or right outside of the heart. I grew up in the heart. I grew up in Palo Alto. And our youth loves Facebook, and loves social media, yet can't log into a meeting. Super resistant to it. Which is so funny. You would just think that they would be the rock stars of virtual recovery. And there's some struggle there. But yeah, so anyways, if you're of service, wherever you're of service, even if that's just being of service to yourself, picking up that pen or typing on that keyboard and doing some step work during this time, thank you. So I wanted to start with something that I thought was a little bit funny, some little comedy. So a few years ago, I got a whole bunch of old NA Way magazines from the 80s, from before I was born. I was born in 1989. None of you are old. I'm just very young. But so I found this NA magazine that I have from April 1989. So I was 2 months old. And it's so cute on the cover. It says computerized recovery. And look at us, like so many years later, and we have to rely on a virtual world. And it's so, oh my God, this is just the cutest thing. If you can get yourself a PDF of this, I believe there's one on a website that you can get it. It's so great. It says, yes, it's here. This range of state-of-the-art equipment epitomizes all that is best in digital recovery. It's not cheap, but it's the best. You have the share queue. It's spiritual, it's practical. You can find that 1/4 second silence and begin sharing with confidence. No more hit and miss with that tiny silicone-based accessory. You can wear it anywhere. It will detect the end of a share in advance and provide a barely audible cue. When worn next to the skin, it will provide low voltage current to stimulate you into speech if required. Positively undetectable. Get well quicker than the rest with a share queue. Implant model under development. It's so, I just love this. It's so stinking cute. I think everybody needs to read this. It'll give a little light humor to the struggles of being in shelter in place and not getting to in-person meetings. And it's just so adorable. And it goes into some other stuff. And I just love it. So I just thought that was like super funny and just like, oh, I love that that was written like, gosh, almost 32 years ago. And then look at where we are today. Yeah, so, I love that the theme is Our Gratitude Speaks. It's, I don't know about where all of you live, but I reference this as like our gratitude prayer. I think I've heard it like being called a few other things, but most commonly I hear it called the gratitude prayer. And it's so funny. Like whenever I facilitate a workshop, or if I'm, a facilitator, a chair, or a team lead of a service body, I really enjoy utilizing this prayer in our meetings. And it's so funny when people are like, what is this? Where does this come from? And I'm like, pull out your medallion, look at the back, and just read along. And yeah, so if you don't know it, if you don't know the full thing, you can find it in our basic text. You can pull out your medallion, look at the back. You can look at the back of some NA magazines, but it's my gratitude speaks when I care and when I share with others the NA way. And gosh, I really enjoy being a member of Narcotics Anonymous. I really enjoy the freedom that I have found here. And most of my freedom has really come and been a direct result of the work that I've done throughout step work. But I wouldn't be the person that I am today without being of service. Service is such a foundation of my life and of my recovery. Service is where I have developed some of the most intimate, important friendships of my life. There's a variety of different, workshops and service related events and other things that just have given me so much joy. And really, again, I think it comes back to like the connecting with others, and like the joy and sharing about service and what's going on and what's something new, or, where has like a committee overcome something, or like where has someone learned something new to bring back to a committee to implement, and just like a whole array of different opportunities, and really like everything. And for me, like everything in the course of being of service is to further carry the message. Like every single effort is to make that either more efficient, more available, you know, louder, whatever it is. It's so, for me, that like, that more addicts can find us, more of us continue to stay, you know, like after that pink cloud goes away, that we find new joy in recovery. We find other purpose and, you know, this desire to be here, this desire to like give back. And yeah, gosh, like there's just so much, you know, my experience of being of service has, like, I feel like I like fell in love with Narcotics Anonymous, and I'm in this like just this love story with NA. And it's like definitely not when I like first came here. When I got clean, I was 19 years old. I wasn't sure if I was an addict. I wasn't sure if I was old enough to be an addict, if my disease was bad enough. And, you know, like, and I picked up a basic text and I found the identification. And, you know, and all of those yets and all of the things that separated myself from anybody else, you know, like went away every time I went into our literature. You know, I was a bit terrified to be a member, to like get into the middle, to like do the work, to have friends here. But, you know, like once I got past the like uncomfortable, awkward, well, more uncomfortable, awkward stage of Amy, like I found my way into the middle, and like a few things that just completely changed the course of my life, the course of my recovery, were centered around being of service. And around the really like from that, the feeling of like being a part of and feeling that I belonged. And then also like even more so like getting outside of myself, like being of service allows me to give to you and give to Narcotics Anonymous and give to the addict yet to be here. And I think about myself less. And that's like a really good place for me to be, is thinking about myself less and thinking about others more. And so in my early recovery, you know, I remember like, gosh, so many things that like blew my mind, and just like things that changed. And, you know, it's so funny, like where my perception once used to be, versus like where it is now. And like the first thing was the seventh tradition, you know, watching a basket go around the room, and watching people put money into the basket, and being like, wow, like I want to give, like I see other people give, like I want to give like other people give, and like learning about, you know, fund flow, and like how money in Narcotics Anonymous, it like stays in Narcotics Anonymous. And, you know, I remember early in recovery, like hearing stories about, you know, translation of our literature into other languages. And, you know, that's often a direct result of like our contributions, our financial monetary contributions, and seeing that like after a group makes it, you know, pays its own way, and they contribute to their area, or if they follow, you know, whatever split they want to do between area, region, and world, and like after like those next service bodies like pay their own way and like contribute and follow that, and then like seeing like what changes globally. And for me, like there was just this literature translation, just, it always makes me emotional. I have every single piece of Narcotics Anonymous literature in my own language, in the language that I am comfortable with. And to see other addicts like get IP number 1 translated, to like have their very first piece of literature like in their own language that is like so much more comfortable to them, even if it's unfortunately not translated the best. Like, oh God, like I would give like all of my money to like have everything translated everywhere all the time so that every addict around the world could have every single piece of our literature in their own language. So obviously I'm really passionate about that. I just love it. I love our fund flow. I feel really grateful to be able to contribute. And you know, in our seventh tradition, it's not just about monetary contributions. You know, we are resources. We contribute our time and our efforts and our experiences to this program. So we don't always contribute financially. We can contribute ourselves. And I think that's really another really important aspect of our seventh tradition. And, you know, and beyond that, so like that was kind of one of the first, like, just little things that I remember from early recovery is seeing that basket go around and like learning about fund flow. And from there, I remember in the area that I got clean in, you know, meetings and groups that had GSRs, it was very common for GSR reports during the meeting. And it usually involved, you know, upcoming events in the area or neighboring areas, upcoming regional convention. And then it would have anything to do with like any service opportunities throughout our local area. It'd be like, you know, public relations has the schools project presentations and we're looking for, you know, people to volunteer and like go in and like share with the classroom, like what Narcotics Anonymous is. Or it would be like, you know, H&I has opportunities to like facilitate or secretary like these different meetings, or like we need to get, you know, people to be cleared to go into our jails and prisons and all of that. And I would hear about like, you know, the activities committee and like, hey, you know, we have this upcoming event on, you know, like XYZ date and like blah, 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 like come support it, yada, yada, yada. And I would hear all these things and I'd be like, wow, this is like really cool that like people get to be of service. Like I'll never get to be of service because I have nothing of like substance to offer. Like one, I'm like so young. Two, like I didn't think anything of myself. So like, I don't have anything to offer. I don't have any experiences. I don't know anything. And like, even when I would hear like positions of like, oh, you know, they're like, we need a secretary and it's a 6-month clean time. And I'm like, okay, I meet that commitment, but I don't know what a secretary is. I don't know like how to go and like be of service on a subcommittee. I don't know, like, whatever, that's for like everybody else to do, because like, I like feel like you have to like, I don't know, get to some level of like recovery to then like go be of service at these different levels. And I just remember, you know, the chair of the activities committee inviting me to come to a subcommittee meeting with him. And I went to that meeting and I just sat during that meeting and I observed and like I was blown away. They were planning an event and, you know, they had a secretary position open. And at the end of the meeting, I was voted in. And I was like, oh, like that's how you like be of service? Like you just show up and you like get voted in? Like that's cool. And like that, God, that opened everything. Because from then I was, you know, participating and putting in on some events in my local area. And then I became the chair of that activities committee for a year. And when I was the chair, I, you know, had to go to area to report to area. And then I got to area and like, this is what like really changed everything, was hearing two of our RCMs give regional reports, give their RCM reports. And I was just like fascinated by like, what is region? and what goes on at region, and like look at all this information they're providing, look at all this stuff about like what world is asking of our groups, and you know, like what region needs, and blah blah blah. And I was like, I just want to go and like sit at region and like observe. So I went to region and just sat for like a year just observing our regional meeting, and getting to know like people from all different areas throughout the Northern California region, you know, and then I became like this master of information about area websites, and like I know like each area website, you know, within the Northern California region, and I can go there and I can look up their meeting information or get their, you know, what upcoming events they have, and yada yada yada. And I eventually became an RCM. So then I was of service at region, and, you know, from there, in 2012, I decided I wanted to go observe the World Service Conference. I had started to meet some people that were of service like outside of my region, and some people like globally. You know, I met a lot of people through social media and started to build relationships with them, and saw that people were going to this World Service Conference. So I got in my car and I drove 6.5 hours, and I went to this, I went to my first WSC, and I had a free hug sign because that's what I do. And that's like a whole other story, but my nickname is the Free Hugs Girl. And I make a sign at every convention that I go to, or every service conference that I go to, and I give it away to someone at the end. It used to just be the newcomer. And then I extended it to the addict still suffering. And then when it's at like a service conference, I extend it to, you know, an area or a committee or a region that is still developing. So yeah, so I went there, and it blew my mind. And I met some of the most important people in my life. I acknowledge that. It's almost up, but I can see that it's coming. You know, I met people that have just like changed everything about my life, the way that I view myself, you know, just these deep, intimate relationships that I have with people through being of service. Gosh, like, oh, I didn't want to cry. But in 2012, like, I got to meet Bob Gray, and God, that man, he, I had a very short and very intimate relationship with him. If any of you know him, like, you know him, you know his heart, you know his spirit. And for me, if you didn't know him, he had cancer, and one of his doctors was out here in California at Stanford University, and I worked there, and I lived in Palo Alto, and I struggle with infertility. I have some reproductive health issues, and I remember I made a decision that like I wanted to get help, and that I wanted to like have courage and go see a doctor and see if we can find some solutions. And I remember posting it on social media, and he wrote the simplest of words. And he just told me that I am in the best hands I could possibly be. And he passed a week later. And every single doctor's appointment I have gone to since then, I bring him with me. And I continue, like, I just have this special relationship with him. And I feel like I have conquered like so much because of him. And with this relationship that I have with him after he passed. And I'm just, yeah, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be of service. And, you know, like I'll end with, you know, there's a really good workshop that happened a few years ago, and it was called like Why We Serve. And I remember like part of the workshop, you know, there was a whole bunch of quotes from a whole bunch of different literature, and it ended up being this like gratitude tree. And there was things, God, it was such a pretty workshop. I still have the PowerPoint and I look at it like all the time. And, you know, when I think of like why we serve, and I also think of like, you know, some people like find their niche, they find the type of service they like to do and they just stay with that. And I don't know what like type of service I'm supposed to do because I'm like continuing to explore. I really enjoy public relations service work. I was just elected as the AD for Northern California region. And so I'm going on that exploration of being of service and giving back to my region and to the groups and to the members and carrying their voice. And I'm really grateful and honored to be able to do that, and that they trust me with that. And I hope to find some creative ways to get more of our voices heard within our region as we collect our region's conscience. So yeah, so I don't know where my niche is, because like I just want to give back, and I want to learn more to like give back even more. And I want to continue to stay open-minded and willing. And you know, I don't really have any fears in recovery, but the one I would say healthy fear that I have is complacency. I never want to get complacent in my recovery, because I have seen far too many times people not being able to get out of complacency. And service keeps me in the middle and keeps me grounded. Not all the time. Many of us, all of us are of service, but it's probably challenging as well a lot of the times. And probably the greatest lesson that I've ever learned is unity is not uniformity. So thank you for allowing me to share.